Hello, welcome to part two of this series of workouts for a knee pain, of how I might structure certain exercises to go at certain times. So in phase one we saw all the mobility focused type of exercises and simple sort of stabilizing and strength ones. Now we're moving into a little bit more of a stability focus and specifically looking at the feet on this first exercise. So the feet are a huge part of the problem, and they can take considerable amount of time to improve. So obviously there's a ton of exercises that I use, specifically big toe mobility and strengthening of the feet. But one of my most effective ones is using this balance beam position. So again, I can really challenge problems with the knee, but there's not like a ton of strength needed. It's just the reactionary ability of the feet and the hips to combine together to preserve the movement. Obviously there's some core element to this, but very much heavily focused on what's happening at the foot. Alright, that's really where I'm trying to pick on them with this specific exercise. And like I said, I might use several other big toe things and toe spreaders and other things just to improve the function of the feet. If I have better things going on at the feet, then it eliminates problems up the chain. Now, bear in mind with all of these things, it varies from person to person. Some people are really good at the feet, so I may not use this as much, but the people who I know who are really bad, I'm definitely going to use it. So I can go from originally just walking on it to now like walking and then adding the single leg stance. So again, I'm preparing myself for the strengthening phase of the single leg stance, because I know that's going to make a huge difference with what happens in controlling the knee falling in or doing all various things that we're just not doing a good job. So I can really make a lot of mistakes here, and it won't cost me. It won't give me, all I end up doing is probably just very frustrated from screwing up all the time. The backward walking on this really adds the proprioceptive system into it, because I can't see what my feet are doing. They have to feel it. Alright, so again, another part of the puzzle that's often missed and skipped over and gone straight to strengthening or just trying to reduce pain, but never addressing all of the factors that are putting the knee in the bad position to begin with. So by learning these type of exercises, I can really make a big difference in getting my ability to strengthen correctly. All right, so let's look at the next one. Okay, so this next exercise is one I've used for a long time, called the toe touch drill. And this is where I'm basically bringing in that single leg stance, but not asking for a ton of strength. So it's just purely body weight. The beauty of this is it really working in multiple directions. And you can see here I'm just trying to get myself stabilized. So the first movement I went backwards, and the second one on an angle. This next one out to the side. So I'm really trying to execute like that perfect form with the knee not collapsing inward. So there's quite a lot to do through the glutes here, as opposed to the first one with the balance beam of just being about the foot. This one brings in the hip a little bit more to it. Alright, so again, like I'm a little bit weaker on my left leg, so what I'm looking for on that is to try and get that perfect alignment through knee, hip, and foot, knee and hip. Alright, so if I can do that, I've got a better chance of preparing my body for the strengthening phase to come. By moving out to these angle, especially this next one, often people with poor hip control, you'll see the knee collapse inwards as the whole body moves this way. So they're very much in the frontal plane, and you might even see the foot collapse. So they might see the foot collapse first. So I could see all of those things happen. And again, if I make a mistake, because the range of motion is quite minimal, I'm not moving through a very big range. I'm just trying to execute good control. All right, so that might be one of the exercises that I might use early on. If someone's quite fairly good, got a fair amount of strength, I might actually use the hip airplane, which is a more advanced version of the same thing, and brings in a lot more, a hell of a lot more stability and control. And again, you can see like this alignment that I'm trying to achieve, and because my eyes are away from a fixed point, I've got the proprioceptive action coming into it, and with my body moving in this direction, it's basically trying to screw me up at the foot or the hip. So there's so many things that are actually going to contribute to making me screw this up. in the attempt to make the muscles prevent that mistake, which is the whole point of the exercise, and then coming back into the nice squared on position again. All right, and then I can do that. Might only need 2 or 3 reps on this. The toe touch drill, I might do 2 or 3 circles. Again, I'm weaker on this leg, so you see a lot more of the instability. You can see my knee floating around there, trying to find that perfect position. I have to move very slowly or I'm just going to fall over. Again, I can make mistakes here and it's not going to cost me. There's not a ton of compression going into the knee either because I'm in a deadlift position as such. So very heavily focused on the hips like we saw in the phase 1. All right, so they're my 2 sort of go-to stabilizing exercises. And then I can start to bring in the first phase, we just saw a kettlebell deadlift. Now I can bring in a lot more load, really make it more about the strength than it was before. So I can bring in my Romanian deadlift with a barbell. So it's the exact same action, I've just got more load. So I'm going to need a lot more strength to do it. All right. And again, I'm preparing for the more difficult things. So I've seen stabilizing with the front leg. Now I've got heavier load through 2 legs, which I've got more control over, but I'm starting to activate muscles in this specific action that I know that I'm going to need for the glutes to control all these alignments. All right, so I'm just gradually upping the ante. I don't want to start with a barbell deadlift, be too aggressive to begin with, although some people might be good at it. And then I can also add in, like, to get extra work into the glutes, I can add the hip thrust. So I may not necessarily do it straight after a deadlift. I could do it after one of the other exercises or just specifically on its own. I can really add considerable load to this, and it really helps me to build some extra strength into the glutes that may be fairly lazy and dysfunctional. This specific action may not address the reason that they're weak, but it definitely will help me in building a better stability and a foundation to build upon with the more difficult things that are going to be a hell of a lot more problematic. All right, so that'd be some of the ones that I'd start with. Then we'll have a look at a couple of the others. All right, so in the previous video we had the single cable pull. So the opposite to that is the single cable push. All right, so this works the anterior sling, so everything that we're working with glutes and lats, and now contrasted with this work of the core and the adductors. So obviously the upper body strength of the chest as well, but I'm really working through the counter of the sling. So if there's stiffness through the glutes, I can really try to alleviate that by having this counter of that specific action. Again, like the adductors, they can be a part of the problem of the hips not working correctly, and through the core obviously as well. So a great way to build in some significant strength into an action that most people might find quite difficult at times, especially that back leg. If I just go back, sometimes with knee pain, that back leg, if I take it on this right one, because this foot here at the back, it's got a lot of pressure on it to stop me getting pulled in by the machine. There can be at times a bit of pressure through the front of the knee. This is why people struggle with the lunges, and especially if there's anterior stiffness in the hip here. They might find this difficult to do, to keep their foot like that. And again, the big toe thing, so what I spoke about with the first exercise. This is an exercise that helps a person to overcome that, develop the control. You may have to regress it at times, but it's a good one to bring in early on. All right, now previously we saw a cable squat, the cable single pull. This time we've got a squatting action for the first time, although it's not a true squatting action because the resistance is going away from the body. So I don't have the compression on the knee. I can really, because the resistance is going this way, I can again leverage my hips to counter that. But because I'm upright, not like a deadlift, I'm quite upright, it allows me to build some small amount of strength into the quadriceps. Obviously this is more of an upper body focused movement, but the purpose of using this for a knee pain is to gradually build in this kind of squatting action. It's not like I said, it's not a true squatting action. As you can see here, as I'm lowering down, my knees are quite straight, where a true squatting action I would have the knees coming forward more. All right, so it'd be a lot more knee loaded. I'd be more like that. all right, but because I've got a straight one, it's almost a deadlift, but not quite because I'm so upright and the resistance going that way instead of down. But a great way to sort of build in some of these initial things that I'm easing myself forward into things, sort of playing with fire where the problem in the knee may be settling in, but I'm getting around it, and as long as I'm working on some of the mobility things from the first phase, so I'm going to still probably use some of those, maybe those abdominal things that I used in the beginning as well, the basic hip extension on the floor. I might continue to be using these at the end of this workout. All right, but that'll be how I've gradually gone forward, but not too fast that I'm going to screw everything up that I've done from the phase one. Phase one I might have only needed 3 to 4 weeks, maybe not even. This one might not take me about the same amount. All right, and then hopefully by that stage I'm getting a bit more control, less pain, and now I can start working more into the integrated strength things, which will be in the next phase. All right, so that'll be the end of this workout, and then the next video will be about the phase 3. All right.